Ohio State Board of Education is facing a $2 million budget shortfall by the end of the next fiscal year, which is a hefty sum to overcome considering the board's $15 million annual budget. According to the state superintendent, Paul Kraft, the board may not make payroll by June. Kraft said the fate of the board's finances will likely depend on the flow of the money from licensing and renewals. Overseeing licensing is one of the few tasks the school board has retained after most of its powers were stripped in the state's budget. According to Kraft, the state board is already understaffed. As its finances stand, the board does not have enough funds to hire a communications director, chief legal counsel, or an executive assistant for the superintendent. For additional information, you can go to this story on NBC4i.com.